Today we are going to learn how to live, laugh, and love. You know, every time you see Cindy, our speaker today, I never have seen her frown. Things could be so hectic. Things could be so challenging. Everything is just falling apart. And here comes Cindy with her smile. And then when she told me, when we invited her about this forum, she said, "Oh, I know, I have a title. Live, laugh, love, and love." And that's what she is. And she will tell us the secret of how she does it. Maybe it will drop onto some of us. But Cindy, I don't know whether you know her. You know that she's just elected the new president for SAGE. That is the Support Our Church event. It used to be called the auxiliary. We kept forgetting to use the word. Now that we are starting to use SAGE, finally we're forgetting auxiliary word. Auxiliary or SAGE is responsible for most of the programs that we're doing for the church, especially the big fundraising that we use during the Americana Fair, which used to be the Election Day Fair. And I don't know whether you know about this. Cindy is very skillful as the executive assistant for Shelley Rubin, who is the founder and the president of the Rubin Museum and Gallery. She will come every now and then and she'll say, "Do you know the display that they have? They have at the gallery this and that." And with that, it kind of gets an inspiration right away and know the background of what she's doing. And let's hear her talk about it. And I know that you all know also, Ed over here is the #1 supporter for Cindy. That's right, I always get the prayer. Is Lynn's not here? Thank you, George.
So, it's great to see so many people turning out on a grim day like this. So, here we are all together in God's house. So let's come together in prayer. Holy Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to gather once again in your house as your people. We pray that you will enthuse our speaker and open our hearts to hear the message that she has for us. Amen.
My old neighbor from Syosset just walked in. I've known him about 50 years. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Live, love, laugh. See me? That was in front of our house or apartment in Fresh Meadows, New York. There was a little tricycle there. And I moved to Syosset in 1958 from Fresh Meadows. And this is a photo of me outside our garage. And Syosset.
Easter Sunday.
Probably Easter Sunday. I have a book in here, a notice of the cute little shoes. This is my sister Michelle, outside our tent in Arcadia National Park in Maine. As a family, every July, we went camping to Forked Lake in the Adirondacks or Lake George. And I do recall counting our mosquito bites every night before going to sleep. I think I remember about 500 one time. And my parents immediately joined the Syosset Community Church. My father was an attorney. We're in my sister's house in Troy, New York. And I guess it was Christmas time. This was my grandmother and brother and my mom. My father got his hands on a railroad switch light and bell from the Lehigh Valley Railroad. That's where he was the attorney. And my father joined the choir and took part in church school plays and dressed up as Moses. He always liked to act. And I was in the youth group, and Tom Goodyear was the youth minister. In 1967, I was confirmed by Ted Trost and Fred Bachman, and it was my very first time. I'll show you. Here's a picture of me. Here I am. That's Fred Bachman and Gene Butler and Ted Trost.
Everybody's robed.
That's Gene Butler.
And Gene Butler. And it was my very first time of taking communion, and I wanted to read to you the scripture I read at my confirmation. It was from 2 Timothy, verse 1 through 7. For God did not give a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power and love and self-control. I was in the junior choir, but never joined the senior choir. I taught church school for many years, which was led by Gene Butler, the church school pastor. And I do recall Alice Bram and Peg Musel being teachers there. In 1970, I wanted to learn about another religion, and it was the Baha'i faith. I went to fireside chats every Friday night, and after going to about a number of these chats for about 6 months, I asked Gene Butler, who was the associate pastor of the church, to come one Friday night. I actually forgot the conversation we had, but I stopped going to the fireside chats and continued going to the Syosset Church. And I was about 17 or 18 years old when a member joined. Her name was Nancy Stedman. Nancy and her husband Stead got me involved in having plant sales at church, and it was probably my very first fundraising event. Otto Kyle was the wholesale florist in Huntington that was the source of our flowers. And Nancy was a professional singer and would soon go on trips. She asked me to stay in her home while she and her husband Stead were away. Nancy had many books in her home, and I came upon Unity Magazine and Daily Word, which I still read today. Prayer and meditation was what I actually was looking for in my life, and these were the central messages. I think I purchased all the Eric Butterworth and James DeLette Freeman books that were written. As a matter of fact, Ed and I would attend Unity services in New York City, which were held in Lincoln Center on Sunday mornings. Eric Butterworth would lead the services, and Justin Morley would lead the meditation during the service. I have a YouTube video, but I would have to do some playing around, but the main song was Let There Be Peace on Earth, and Let It Begin With Me. The Syosset Church had to put on a new roof, so this meant the services had to move to the gym. And as a member, I wanted to make an announcement, and I was very shocked. I didn't know what to do. So Nancy would always tell me, you can do it, Cindy. Just have the faith. So I probably got up and I had probably index cards. And I probably was announcing that we were having a flower sale. In 1971, I graduated high school, and I wanted to learn court reporting using a stenotype machine, so I went to Adelphi Business School in Mineola. It was a 2-year course, and they guaranteed me a job at the end. I started working for the Department of Labor, Division of Unemployment at the World Trade Center. I worked at that job for about 5 years, and then the Department of Labor decided to take the court proceedings for unemployment hearings. So my services were no longer needed. I really wanted to use my stenotype machine, so I worked for Parker, Chapin, Flavo, and Kluppel. for 15 years. I recall very clearly that while I was working at this law firm, Lynn Sullivan had a major car accident, and I remember calling her while she was recovering.
No one wants you to turn on the microphone.
Is that okay? You hear? That's better.
I'm so technical. It's a volume.
That was, they were in 1982.
What
You see
year is
where-
that?
You see where you can see Bertha and Harley, that, in the back scene there. We moved to Westbury and wanted to join another UCC church. I did a great deal of research. I guess it was in January 1983. I told Ed I was going to Garden City Community Church. I left my house early so I could attend the forum, worship service, and coffee hour. It returned early afternoon, and Ed said, "Where were you?" I said, "I was at church." I said, so it was important for me to join a UCC church. They had everything that Syosset had, and I just wanted to be in that same church. Not long after, we joined in February of 1983, and I immediately joined the deacons and became an usher. I have a cute story to tell you. When Ed and I were ushering many years ago, we needed chairs, and it must have been an Easter service or Christmas, so we had to go to Gardner Hall to get the chairs. And Bill Moyers was standing in the narthex of the church and said to us, "No man would be seated if a woman was still standing." And Ed and I remember those words so clearly. In 1984, we went to Deering. It was one of the summer events here at the church. And as first-timers, we were placed in a chicken coop. At least that's what they called it. How many of you have been at Deering? So we have quite a few. Here's a picture of George Basham on the left, and Beverly Olberg, Bob Engel, and Ralph, and Gene Owen. I don't know who this person is on the left with the white hair, but I'm not sure if you remember the church or not, and Barbara King. Here's a picture of Sue. We were in the,
Not by much.
The 23rd Olympiad was in Los Angeles, and Ed and I agreed to do a Vesper service. We read Paul's, here's some other people from, you can tell. Sue is over here, upper left, and Barbara Haynes, that's me, with the Mickey Mouse shirt, and Bill, and Liz Engel, Bob Engel, Marva Walliver, and I know your daughter is on the far right, Sue.
Oh, yeah, Debbie.
Debbie.
And who's the mommy? Who was wrapped?
Probably Bruce King.
I don't know. And there's Ralph Wahlberg doing the pushing a ball. We were asked to do a Vesper service then, and it's typed, so I must have had it ahead of time. And we read Paul's first letter to the Corinthians and to the Philippians, and it said, God's message to us through Paul's scripture helps us to understand how we should always press on toward our goal. Never think we have it made, and to remember that we are not trying to win a medal that will tarnish, but rather moving toward the prize of eternal spiritual life.
You can preach that today in church, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good message.
I'll give you the notes.
Good message.
Our church went on a retreat to Warwick House in Pennsylvania. This was the unwrapping our gifts in 1988. And we had a period of 24 hours of silence. It was a Friday night to Saturday night, and it was a great experience. And there was another group sharing our space, and I do recall we ate in silence while everyone else was speaking. And I also went to the Little Portion Friary in Mount Sinai. In early 1993, Lisa Valentine and I decided to lead a meditation group here at church. Lisa is a daughter of the Barrows that used to live on Whitehall Boulevard. And we led this group of about 12 people for about 6 weeks, and we read many books on healing. Are you willing to try a little, try meditating, not a meditation, it's a healing force of heat that you all have in your hands, and you can feel, everyone has a different sense of heat, the heat field. And I've had the ability to assist, Bob, our custodian. He happened to have a migraine. So I said, okay, Rob, just sit still, shut your eyes. And he did feel better afterwards. And when my father was dying of colon cancer, a few people from our church who were part of the healing group came to my parents' home in Syosset, and we had a healing service. And my father did believe in the power of healing. And then I participated in the Stevens Ministry Program in the early 90s. And we were taught how to assist the spouse in learning how to cope with a family member who has cancer or some other physical problem. This was a very meaningful program in which I could use my meditation and healing skills.
Cindy, this is a matter of public knowledge. He's spoken it. I think Janet Van Watke was a member of your group.
Oh, yes, and I happened to be not there that night when I had to go to another church meeting, and they did heal her back.
She has testified that
She
her back,
testified
which
that
the
her-
doctor said, you're gonna live with this pain for the rest of your life, was totally healed. She felt the heat in her back,
Right,
and to this day, she is healed.
and that was a great thing that doctor did.
And Cindy, I don't know if you remember, you did that to me in the chapel during one of our prayer services when I was having a lot of lower back problem.
And because of the American Disabilities Act of 1990, I was on the committee led by Sal Melconian to raise $250,000 for an elevator. And during this time, Jim Kennedy had returned to our church as an interim minister. And the committee members were Sed Melconian, Jean Owen, Helen Porter, Hugh Lacey, and myself. And I think it took about a year before the elevator was installed, and they had to put a dormer and a pit in the basement. So this took a little time. And I also wanted to be a part of it because I was having back problems and I was having difficulty going up and down the stairs. I also enjoy teaching church school. Well, this is another one. And Andrew Ellis was one in my class, and he's become a good church member today, and I've been following him as other little kids that I knew. During those years, I worked for a law firm as a floater. Usually, this meant I would work for a senior partner for a week, and their secretary was on vacation. Looking back now, it was hard for me to believe that the attorney only wanted me to take phone messages. So I really prepared the church school plans at work. And it gave me a lot of time because I just was answering phones and he didn't have many messages, so. So I really enjoyed preparing for the church school. It took me a week because I was really into preparing for the kids. I had a lot of back problems during these years. Excuse me.
So
So in May of 1994, I had a laminectomy of the L3 and 4 discs at St. Vincent's Hospital. I wasn't working at the time, and as a side note, my doctor looked like Ed Koch. He was a very funny person. When I decided to go back to work, I went to an agency who directed me to apply for a position at Multiplan, which was a preferred provider organization. In September of '94, I started working for Multiplan, and I took this job working for an attorney and Shelley Rubin. I was told Shelley designed the offices at 5th Avenue and 18th Street. About 2 weeks after working for Shelley, she called me into her office to say she wanted to have me work for her exclusively. She told me she was going to purchase a townhouse very soon and needed my help. I'd always wanted to work for someone like Shelley. You can only imagine what a monumental undertaking this was. She had an apartment at 3rd Avenue and 79th Street, and she had 2 rooms, I guess it was 2 apartments, and a lot of paintings and stuff like that, so I had to organize all of that move. And Shelley would come to the office about twice a week, and I handled her personal calendar. So she did buy this townhouse. It was 5 stories at 70th and Lex, where she stayed about 10 years. And during this time, Shelley didn't come into the office because she was spending more time designing the townhouse and building a Rubin Museum of Art. Once again, Shelley called me into her office, and she says, "You're going to work for Donald." Now, I really didn't really want to work for Donald because he had his set ways, he had an assistant, but I said, okay, I'll do it. I would now be the registrar for all the artwork. When I started working for him, he had about 300 paintings. And I had to teach the process of documenting all the art, photographing, framing, sending to a restorer, and this took time. And because my responsibilities were so private, Shelley built an office for me at Multiplan. And I must have moved at least a dozen times, because the Multiplan offices did not know where to put me. Because they were Multiplan, and Donald had his artwork, and it was Shelley, who was the wife of the president of the company. And the people who saw Donald with the art were called runners. They would bring at least 10 Tonkas. I'll show you a picture of this one. And Donald would get the best price. When Donald's assistant could not find me at the office, his assistant would use the PA system and say, "Cindy Campbell, please come to the executive area." So everybody knew that Donald was either buying more paintings or wanting something else. And Multiplan was a very large organization. It had 2 floors, and one building flowed into the other building. So we had about 400 paintings on the wall. And one time in the morning, I was going through one of the hallways, and I noticed that something didn't look right in the hall with the paintings. So I said, "Michael, did something happen overnight that I don't know about?" He says, "I painted the wall and I put the paintings back up." I said, "But you put them in the wrong order." Because I used to do an inventory once a month, and with someone else to read the number on the floor plan, and so it was quite involved. And so I was the curator for 10 years before the Rubin Museum was built. I registered at least 1,000 paintings and statues. And they didn't have a computer system like we have today. It was a standalone PC, but they made it different along the way. I had to do a different system. Someone had to put the paintings on the website, and it's now called himlane.org. And a number of other people had to get the museum up and running before it opened its doors in 2004. And Lynn Sullivan and I organized 2 prayer luncheons in January and May of 2005 at the museum, which was quite exciting and enjoyed by all those who attended. I don't know if any of you have been there for that. I don't think so. The Shelley and Donald Rubin Foundation was incorporated in 1995 with initial grants to art in hospitals and a center to prevent handgun violence. Its early mission was to support the arts, meet urgent human needs, defend liberty, and promote social justice. The geographic areas of concern were primarily New York City and the Himalayan region of Asia. And Evelyn Rich, who served from 1995 to 2004, was the executive director. Evie did a forum here a number of years ago. I don't know if you remember that. And the painting I'm showing you here is one of my favorite pieces. It's a 2-sided painting, and the reverse side has the hands of the painter. And it's like, you can see it's the teacher, Lama. I can't pronounce his name, but it's a ground mineral cotton, and it was in the 1800s. And see where it says P 2001? It was a personal painting of Donald's in 2001, and it was one of 3 of the series of paintings. In 2010, I had colon cancer, and a few weeks ago, I had a CT scan of my abdomen, pelvis, and chest, and I'm happy to say I'm cancer-free. I want you to know that when I was on the final 2 weeks of taking my chemo pill, that was like 5 years ago, my doctor advised me that I should not walk too much. Well, this would have been difficult because I worked in the city and taking the subway and things like that. And I had blisters on the bottom of my feet and hands, and Shelley graciously offered me to stay in her apartment. She was going on a trip, and Donald would be home, so that would be good because I could look after Donald. And so it was an excellent opportunity for me to stay at her apartment. And one of the many benefits of working for the Rubens was that I was fortunate to have met the Dalai Lama at the museum. Oh, sidetrack here. I put it in the wrong order. But the picture here on the left is what I got off the UCC website of the curriculum. And I wanted to compare the mandala that's on the right. It's like the circle of life. And that's the Rubin Museum. And that's the first floor. And it's Shelley and Donald. That's another picture of Shelley and Donald in the Himalayas. And that's the Dalai Lama who came to the museum. Shelley wanted to do more with her life, so she founded A Blade of Grass in 2011. She wanted to actively understand and promote artists who use their creativity in the service of social change. And the organization seeks to better understand how artists can illuminate and engage with social issues, expand the relationship between art and life, and build new audiences. The Rubens did purchase an apartment at Trump Park Avenue at 59th Street, and the renovation took about 4 years because Shelley was combining 2 floors. Shelley was always doing renovation. I think her whole life she likes to do things like that. So my primary location was at 70th and Lex, because my space at Trump Park Avenue was not completed yet. And Ivanka Trump and her family still reside in that building. And I was very fortunate to have an excellent working relationship with the Rubens and stayed with them for 20 years. As you can see from this picture, President Bill Clinton was part of a fundraising event at the Rubin apartment, and here I am with fellow staff members. I retired in January 2015, and I knew I wanted to be more involved with our church. I now attend Tuesday prayer services each week. I assisted Ian to organize the Wednesday evening services, and they followed up with Diane Fryer and Andy Morial for the music portion of the service. This service has become very meaningful to me. I've had the great pleasure of knowing the Ryan family and Leslie apartment. Sophia, Sydney and Sophia, I've become quite close to. And during the summer, I assisted Lynn in helping her to reorganize and move the office she had for 20 years to upstairs near the office, which was Liz Cavola's office.
Sydney, didn't those kids put in a prayer card for you?
They did.
Tell us about
Yes.
that, please.
Well, they also did a member moment. And
That's
they,
right.
They did a member moment, and they said, I really like meeting Mr. Campbell and Mrs. Campbell.
Sweet.
And I will end with a photo of our 3 ministers who have been very supportive to me over the years. And thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today.
Wow, thanks. Two questions.
Sure.
The first one is easy. How long was your commute from Syosset to the Rubens when you were working there for
Well,
20 years?
It's an hour and a half each
Wow.
way. It was from Westbury,
Yeah,
to-
it's not easy.
right? And it was one fun instance when my, Ed would always say, he'd carry my books for me. So he would come into the city every now and then, or when I had a problem, and I would walk from 34th Street to Park Avenue because it was a shorter walk. Well, it really wasn't shorter, but it was less staircases to go, and I didn't want to spend money on a taxi or an Uber.
And the second question is, how did you and Ed meet each other?
We met in the Syosset church. Ed was divorced, and he has a daughter who's now 42. She was adopted from Korea from his first marriage.
Wow. That's neat. Did you get married in that church?
Yes.
Nice.
Just on an aside, to obviously say you're a wonderful person, but also she's, obviously her back surgery has healed completely, because last winter she and I went cross-country skiing together. And we had a blast, and I'm sure as soon as it finally snows, we'll be out there again. And welcome to join us.
So luckily today it wasn't snow, Rose, none of you would be here.
You must have learned a lot about the Himalayan art. Has that become a continuing interest for you? Do you still maintain interest in that?
Not too much, no. But it was interesting, when I went on the website, I thought I would see all the paintings that I had registered, but they must have sold, the museum must have sold a lot of the paintings, because I went up there to look for mandalas, and they only had a couple. So that meant that they were selling their paintings. I never asked Shelley that, but I'm sure if I asked her, she said, you'll have to ask the museum.
Cindy, how many years did you work? It sounds like a long time, a lot of interesting and very
it was court
responsible
reporting.
positions.
I guess it was in the 70s. I went to the Delphi Business School.
Right.
And so I guess it was a commuter for maybe 40 years,
Wow,
because I always liked the city.
God bless you. Wow.
But now this has been my place for the community too, which I really do enjoy.
With a shorter commute.
Yeah, sure.
Cindy, I don't know if you remember when Jean Owen, you and I went to Freeport?
Yes, that
To
was
do some
during the time,
half-day
during the times
fishing?
of my back problems. We hung out together,
Yeah.
and we did go to Freeport, yeah.
And it was interesting because Jean and I were the one who loves to eat fish. And it was Cindy who caught a really good sized 12-inch fluke. So we just took a picture and then I took it home to fry.
That was probably when we went out on one of the
Yeah, the boats.
fishing boats.
The fishing boats.
Right.
Mhm.
just wanted to mention that besides your taking on the leadership of SAGE and being a part of so many other ongoing programs in the church, I just want to remind you, you promised to help me clean out my office.
And I mentioned that Seymour Spiegel's been here in my life for over 50 years. His daughter says 58 years, so I said, let's make him leave at 60 maybe. And
You want to hear a story about Cindy?
We love it.
She's not as innocent as you think. She and my daughter grew up side by side, and they attended Syosset High School, the grade school straight through. But they decided to join the high school band. Both of them wanted to play a clarinet. Her father, who should rest in peace, and I had the unfortunate duty of replacing the reeds every other day in the clarinet because they did not know how to blow on the clarinet. Well, what would happen, they would march, the two of them would march next to each other and want to talk to each other, and both clarinets would meet in the middle. So she's not as innocent as you think. That's right, we'll do reeds.
Seymour was at my retirement party, so he has other stories too. Well, thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. We just wanted to remind you, next week we're supposed to have a guest from the law firm to talk about LGBT laws, but he has some conflict. And so instead, Mary Dewar, as usual, came up with something, and Mary's going to do will be showing us a DVD about Fix It, and that is about healthcare, a single payer. And so we will have half an hour of DVD and a short discussion. And I always believe that that is so important, especially during the current years and all the things that's going on. And again, thank you, Mary, who just happened to have a recent health issue also. We're so happy that you're here. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.